Hello, everyone. My name is Tooways Asmal. Welcome to another episode of Tooways to Skin a Cat, a show where we talk career experiences, entrepreneurship, and investments. The main aim is to show that there's more than one way to be successful other than just climbing the corporate ladder. We are live on LinkedIn and YouTube, and the show will be available on podcast by tomorrow. So don't forget to like, subscribe, and click on that notification bell to get automatically notified when the next episode comes out. If you're joining us live, drop a one in the comments so that we know we're not talking to ourselves, and drop a two in the comments if you're watching the recording. My guest for this week is Tafara Tsoka, CEO of an investment advisory company helping entrepreneurs to raise funding. Tafara, thanks so much for joining me today.
It's a pleasure to be here. Two ways. Oh, I said two ways. I remember, the first time that I spoke to you, and I was having a challenge pronouncing your name, and you said two ways. So since then, I've actually been calling it two ways. But it's a pleasure being here today, and I'm hoping we're going to have a very exciting discussion.
Awesome. Let's jump straight into the meat of it. Where do you come from? And even outside of work, tell us your story. Who is Tafara Tsoka? Give us that backstory.
Where can I begin? It's been very interesting. I come from Zimbabwe. I grew up in Zimbabwe, and as I was growing up, I really thought I was going to be somebody in the science sector. Um, and my dream, I remember at one time, I thought I was going to be a neurosurgeon. um, to a point where when I was in high school, I did pure sciences. And my career really changed towards commercials when I was going to advanced levels. And then the head of the science department came to me and she said to me, Tafara, you're not going to be doing sciences. And here I was one of the only 10 people in my class that had done pure sciences at O level, now going to A level and not doing sciences. So I then went started doing commercials, and I was so frustrated that at one time I decided that I wasn't going to do mathematics. So I did geography, accounting, and management of business. But I think after 2 weeks at A level and not doing mathematics, it really was a bit boring for me. So I went to the head of department for the math department and said to them, look, I would like to do mathematics. So I started doing mathematics again. So I did mathematics, accounting, geography, and management of business. And by the way, at A level, if you were doing 3 subjects, it was tough. And I decided to do 4. Um, but then what was interesting also was that I love to play a lot of sport, and I didn't want to do a lot of afternoon subjects. So for the first term, I did mathematics, accounting, geography, and management of business. And then in the second term, this was really the term that I was going to be really doing sport. And by the way, I played at the national finals for volleyball. So we had an afternoon class for geography, and I didn't like it. It was always after coming from the dining, and most of our lunches at the boarding school was pub and something else, and you tend to feel sleepy. So I just started not enjoying geography at all. And our teacher then decided to give us an assignment to do over the weekend. Now, remember, I'm at a boys' high school and I'm at a boarding school, and it's a weekend. And we had all these study sessions. We had our study at 6 p.m. to 9 p.m. from Monday to Friday. And on Saturdays, we had it from 10 to 12. And now he wants us to do schoolwork. And I'm thinking, oh, should I do this or should I go and practice volleyball? And fortunately, volleyball won. So I just stopped going to the geography lessons. And then I remember my teacher calling me and saying, I haven't been seeing you in class. What's happening? And I said to him, I dropped geography. And he was shocked. So now there was a person that I was thinking I was going to be doing science subject. I kind of felt like I was not in the right sector. But when I started doing commercials, now I started having this passion for finance. And from there, I started following people like Warren Buffett, started learning more about the stock market in Zimbabwe. And I remember there was guys from this, it should be SAIF, that came through to the school when I was in in A level, and we had three schools for a seminar. We had Christian Mambo that was there, with St. David's Bond that was there, and these were some of the best schools in the province. And I went to one of the best schools as well in terms of academics. And we had this game that we were playing on the stock market, and I was responsible now for choosing the investment, the companies to invest in, and we won the game by a margin. So then I started saying, you know what, I think this could be a sector that I want to really go into. So I started developing a passion for finance, and I always saw myself as a finance manager later on in life. So the most interesting thing happens. Finished A level, went to university. My first option was banking and finance. The second one was accounting, and the third one was economics. So I get to university, and then I said, okay, which degree is going to give me the path of least resistance? So I went to Midland State University, and I went to the marketing department. And I went to the chairman's department. I said, say, I know my option was not even any of my choices, but I want to do your marketing management. So he said to me, you know, we already have a few of the places. I said, I know, but I know I'm sure you will be able to give me a place. And then he said to me, wait outside. So that was around 8 in the morning. And I was supposed to go back to Harare. So Gweru is around, for people that understand Zimbabwe, that know Zimbabwe, Gweru is almost 275 kilometers away from Harare. And I had not organized any accommodation for me to sleep over in Gweru. So I waited. Then at 4 p.m., when he was going out of his office, he saw me. Then he said, oh, you're still here. I said, yeah, I told you I want to do marketing. So he said, okay, it's fine. Here's the form, go to admissions. And I was lucky that the guys at the admissions office had not really closed. So I got the form, I filled the form, and I did marketing management. And it was one of the best years for me in university, 4 years. I remember in the final year, I went to university, I think, for about 2 weeks to submit my dissertation, defend my dissertation, and to write the exams. And then from there, I then left university, and I also had a bit of an IT background. So my actual first real job after university was as head of media for my local church, which was Celebration Church in Barre, Hatfield. And I worked there for 1 year, and I started something entrepreneurial also on my side. So, but before that, my entrepreneurial journey started when I was in my third year in university, together with a few friends. We came together and we formed a marketing agency. But it was very interesting in the fact that we were all working. I was on attachment. My other friend was on attachment, and then the one guy was already working in an advertising agency. So we were working in between our work, and it involved long hours. Leaving the office at our official work, going creating client briefs, and then trying to find time during the day to go and see those clients whilst we are at work. And then we then went back to university. The company didn't survive because we're now finalizing our studies. And then when I then finished university and I was now working for the church, I said I was going to work for 1 year and I'll see what I'll do. So after that 1 year, again, I went into an entrepreneurial drive. I was basically involved in IT services, getting computers, getting cell phones, and then selling it. And life was actually okay. I was a bachelor then. I was enjoying myself. And then my brother was in South Africa. I said, come to South Africa and work. And I said to him, no, man, I'm not going to come to South Africa. let's wait and see. And then my father had passed away.
I'm sorry.
And then I had to make the move to South Africa. When I came here, the intention was not to really look for work. It was to see what South Africa was all about. Now, because of all the stories that we would hear, so I came. Fortunately, when I got here, the person that I met said to me, we were talking and said, "Come work for me." I said, "Okay, it's fine." Put it at the back of my mind. And then I think it was in December. Then I said, "Look, man, is that offer still available?" He said, "Yeah, it's fine. Come for an interview." So for me, when I went to the interview from corporate Zimbabwe, I was wearing a suit. The only thing that wasn't there was a tie. So I get to the offices and the gentleman was there. He was wearing shorts and Crocs. And up to now, we're still very good friends with him, and we always joke about it. So I get there, um, offered me a job, and the job was commission only. And again, it's a shock for me because I'm not used to working just for commission. I was used to, obviously you'd have a basic and then you'd get commission. So I joined the company. Um, Within my first month, I was the top performing person in the department. I ended up being the assistant manager. And then in 2014, we started another company which was in the derivatives trading space. I was one of the first employees to join the company. Um, and the company grew. It was a category one and category two FSP. The company grew to a point where in 2018, I then became a director and a shareholder in the business, and we became one of the first few non-banking over-the-counter derivatives providers to get a license from the FSCA.
Wow.
And we became the second company in South Africa, if not in Africa, to get a license for MetaTrader 5. Most companies back then were actually just using white labels. So we actually became the second. And the other company is part of a JSE listed group. So I worked there. I worked for the company for more than 8 years. And then I was headhunted by my Russian friends. You know the story that I told you the other day, to come and head the African growth. And the group was doing revenues of more than 54 billion rand.
Wow.
And some of the things that we did there that was very interesting was we managed to introduce pre-market trading to the retail trader in South Africa. The platform has a lot of analytics. It's a platform that I once in a while actually go in and check and see. And all this process for me, I was investing on the JSE since 2012 on a personal level. And I still do that. Have done investments on the New York Stock Exchange on a personal level as well, which is very, very good. And then I then moved away from the Russians company and I joined one venture capital company. I didn't stay very long in there, and then I decided then to do the solo VC route, which is a trend which is really going on in Africa, in the world. In Africa, it's not that much, but in the world, we've had some solo VCs raising more than 32 million for the funds, and so that's the story of where I end up being with Zion Venture Partners, and
Okay.
that's my story in a very long nutshell.
I want to talk to you about that part that you just mentioned. So, I mean, you move from like a listed shares and a derivative space into an unlisted space. I know there's a lot of people out there who may be trading on the side, buying shares and things like that in on the stock market. But my assumption is that you have to think very differently when you're dealing with potential investors in the unlisted space compared to in the listed space. And what tips do you have for someone who's thinking of, "Ah, I've been investing in the stock market. I want to try my hands at venture capital. I want to try my hands at investing in a business down the road. Any tips?
Um, yes, you're right in saying that the space is different. But the way that you analyze an investment is pretty much the same. The only difference is that in a listed company, it is public information. In the alternative space or in the private equity side, it goes back to what information the founder is giving to you, and how are you really looking at the information, because there's really not much information to compare. But when you're looking at sector analysis, industry analysis, it's pretty much the same. There's always, every industry has got the leading companies in there. You'll be able to do the analysis. But now for a person who is coming into this space as an investor, one, you really need to be a person who is passionate about the markets in general, and you need to be a person that would want to expose yourself to different and exciting challenges, and your risk appetite is also higher in there. And one other crucial thing that you would need in the sector is to have a very good and wide network, because some of these opportunities, because they are not publicly listed, it's a matter of who knows who and what deals are going through. But of course, there are tools for somebody to use, but those tools are quite expensive. Quite expensive. Some of the tools, if you're starting out, it could be actually money that you can use as seed investment in a company. I'm talking about platforms that you can get that gives you all the venture capital companies, all the deal flows in Africa by sector, but they are in excess northwards of probably around $27,000 per annum. And most of them, they don't just issue single licenses, they would issue multiple licenses, minimum three. So for somebody looking into going into this space, I would say build your network. Definitely, you need to do that, and you need to be a person who is passionate about startups and developing the economies of whatever sector that you are going to go into. And you really need to be a person that needs to be in a position to take calculated risks, because once you invest, not all the investments that you are going to invest are going to be profitable. The majority actually are going to be negative, because you're essentially backing a founder based probably on the experience that they have shown to you, and how, what your gut tells you, which, it can be smokes and mirrors. The person can know really who, what to say and what to bring to the table. And then when it's actually going tough, you then find yourself, in a situation where you start to ask yourself, what did I get myself into here? And you also need to be a person that can actually mentor the investors, investees that you are investing into, because most of them, they are very good people at coming up with ideas, but in terms of running the businesses themselves, it's a different story. So you also need to be a person that can read a lot, understand a lot of sectors across. So you may say you just want to focus on fintech alone. That is fair and well. But if you want to have more opportunities and you spread your risk, you need to know across different sectors.
And I suppose you still have to have bit of a macro view as well. So if the economy is not doing well, nobody's doing well.
Definitely.
For the audience, we'll be responding to questions towards the end. So please add your questions to the comment section now so that we don't miss them. So let's switch the conversation a little bit to potential founders or founders. What do you look for in companies that you think are investable? What makes them different from companies that you say, I don't want to put my money there?
Look, I for the listeners that are joining us on LinkedIn, I think I've done a series which is very comprehensive as to what we definitely look for. Um, but the very first thing that I look for personally is the founder themselves. Um, it's a matter of, do they have a track record? Have they founded a business before? Was the business successful, or if it wasn't successful, what sort of lessons did they have they learned? That's very crucial for me. And number two is the team that they have behind them. So it could be a team of advisors, it could be the other co-founders that they have. It's a no-brainer that you need to have people that understand and people that are there to challenge you as a founder as well. Because sometimes as a founder, you're thinking, no, this is the plan that I'm looking at, but you need to have somebody that is going to come and say, yeah, we understand your plan, but it's not going to work because of A, B, C, and are you able to listen to that? They also need to know their numbers as well, in terms of the industry in general, not just the company, the net profit and whatever the things that we look for in a business. It's about, do they understand the industry? Where do they see the industry going? Do they have that information at the fingertips? Um, then the other thing that we have really seen is that in terms of evaluations, a lot of founders think that if they have started a business, it's going to be worth this much, but they're not looking at what the investor is looking at. So I'll tell you some examples. We're looking at one crypto exchange, um, and they were looking at about raising around 1.5 million dollars at a valuation of 10 million dollars. But the business was not had not even had an MVP, which was up and running. Uh, yes, there was some investment in it. For me, that business was worth probably around 750,000. But the founder was looking at it at 15 million. Then we had another, a recent one was a business in Botswana. They were valuing the business at $80 million dollars. So they were looking for 10% seed investment. And I started asking them about the numbers because their service had something to do with buses in Botswana. So they understood the total market. I'll just give round figures here, for example. So they said Botswana had about 20,000 public buses. And I asked them and I said, okay, so of the 20,000 buses, how many buses are you in terms of you as being a service provider? And they said four. So this somebody was raising 80 million. So it's raising 8 million at a valuation of 80 million. The business is really focusing on the buses, but they only have four buses out of a market of 20,000 buses. And the tech behind it was not even theirs. So it was already out. And then the other thing is we find a lot of founders, like I was saying, they understand that they have an idea, but when it comes to governance, they don't have any governance. So you start asking to say, okay, so what are your key contracts that you have? Where are they? They say, no, I have them somewhere, but they're not able to provide it for you. So already they may have an investable business, but if they don't have their governance in place, I mean, we have seen what has happened around the world with companies like FTX. It's a good business, but governance is out of the way. So as an investor, you cannot protect your funds if somebody's like that. So for me, to summarize, that is it's the founder themselves, the team around them. They need to know their numbers about the business, and they also need to know the key trends in the sector that they're operating
Give me a good idea. I have a few more questions, but I see there's one or two interesting questions coming through from the audience. I want to run by those quickly so that we don't miss them. Got a question. I'm not sure who it's from, but it says, "What team does Tafara work with? What are the 3 to 4 challenges he finds with entrepreneurs looking for funding? And what types of entrepreneur journeys does he look for? Seed capital, matured, and
in. So in terms of, I don't understand when he says what team does he work with, but I'll just give you an indication of who I work with. I work with some of your ex-colleagues, ways. I work with a team of corporate finance experts in terms of fundraising, modeling, valuations. I also have some guys that are out on the road looking for businesses that needs funding. So that's the kind of the team that I have. And in terms of 3 or 4 challenges I find entrepreneurs looking for funding, I think I've already highlighted the two. The one is, they don't have the right governance structures in place for them to get funding. Number two, when it comes to valuations, they don't really understand how to value their businesses. And Number three, what I've seen is you find founders coming in thinking that they have a unique idea, even though sometimes the idea is in existence, and they haven't just done proper market research. And I'll give you an example. Somebody that came and pitched, and they said we have the Uber of deliveries, and they gave me the name of their company. The company was in existence in the UK for 8 years. Company with the same name, same business model. And then when I asked them and I said, "Are you the same company?" They said, "No, but we came with the concept first." Now, this is a startup in South Africa giving me a company that has been in existence in the UK for 8 years, which has presence in the US already. Um, and then the final challenge, really, that I found is it's not as much, but I have sat with founders or people that are giving themselves titles. So, for example, somebody says they are the CEO of the business, but when you start to go into the nitty gritties of the business, you find that I actually know more about the business than they do. So they come in and they're not yet fully prepared about all the angles, and you don't blame them, because sometimes it's their first time getting into such a space. Because most people think, when you're looking for funding, you're just going to go to a bank, come up with a business plan, and that's it. But there is more behind it. And then, what type of entrepreneur journeys does he look for? That's interesting. I'm trying to also understand the question, but I would say somebody that has done a business before, or that they have worked in senior management and they understand systems of a business. Those people are in a better position to get raising than any other business. In terms of seed capital or matured, I'm actually looking for businesses that are at growth stage. Companies that I've seen, there is a risk for myself in that, it has not, they have not probably proven themselves. And remember, I'm also protecting my capital and my partner's capital as well. So it is easier for us to go and look at a company that is on a growth stage and to work on that business than somebody who still has just a concept.
Okay. Okay. We've got another question from Sanele who says, how do you go about determining your exit strategy in your investee? How do you know when to exit a not so good investment, and what are your worst investments to date? Eh,
I wish I could answer all these questions, but in the venture capital space, when you go into an investment, there's always an exit in place. It's either going to be sell it on to another company, or go and sell it to an IPO, to a private equity business, or go in IPO. So I'll be very frank and very honest here. In terms of um, myself, I've not yet at the stage where I'm actually exiting. Like I mentioned, I've just started in the space, or as a solo VC. And how do you know when to exit a not so good investment? Look, so things will tell you as you are going to see. Probably, you look at the founder, you look at the board behind it, and you look at the concept and you look at the trend. So there's a lot of things that you then consider. So I cannot really say um, I look for ABC and that's it. It's things that will be building up to lead to a point where you say, you know what, I'm not really going to then go and invest into this business. Sometimes it's a matter of companies not having properly calculated the runway, and also from our end, calculating as well to see how much more capital is going to be required. So you can go into an capital intensive business thinking that the business would already have settled, but then you realize that every time they're doing a fundraise, and the space between the raises is becoming shorter and shorter and shorter and shorter, then you can probably see that this is not the right investment that we are in, and we need to go out. In terms of West investments to date, um, uh, if I think not on the venture capital space, really,
That fancy
I,
car.
I I remember. No, I don't drive a fancy car, so it's not a West investment. Um, but I remember when I started trading. I was trading single stock futures, and I got into a position in the healthcare space. It's a leading company. Unfortunately, I cannot say which company it is. Um, and so I'm going to tell you two things really. So I went into the position, and I saw the position coming down, and I thought, it will recover. So I kept holding the position. I kept on holding the position, and I remember I was going to go to Zimbabwe at the time, and I looked at the position and said, no, this thing is really just taking my money. Let me just close up the position. So I closed the position, got in a bus, went to Zimbabwe. When I came back in January, um, the share started to go up. It went above my entry price. It went and reached an all-time high. And I was kicking myself to say, look, if I had just held on to this position, I would have made a lot of money. But for me, I still remember that. And this is something that happened in 2012, 2013. So I still remember that. And then the other one, it wasn't an investment on my end. It was when we had a category two license, and I was managing people's funds. I was still under supervision then. And it was a mistake. So my supervisor said, he was leaving the office, and he said to me, when you see if this share reaches this price, close the positions. So the position went into the closing auction, the 10 minutes before the market opens closes at the JSE. So there's a crossing of the price that happened. So the bid price became the ask price. The ask price became the bid price. And I'm sitting there and I'm saying, oh, my target was 525. That's 525 rand per share. So just to give you an understanding of what the share price was. And I was looking at it and I was saying the highest order at that time was 625. So that's 100 rands more per share. So I've actually paid more money for the clients. So I went, executed a market order, but I executed that market order in the closing auction. So it will only close when the price uncrossed. And then when the price uncrossed at 5 p.m., it filled at around 515. And I'm thinking, okay, no, I was seeing 525 here. I was seeing 625, sorry. My target was 525. I closed at 625, so they should give me 625. Immediately, I said that's a misdeal. So I immediately phoned my I phoned the platform provider, and I said, look, I closed the position and it fitted this price. And then they said it was the closing auction. So they assumed they were talking to somebody who knew what he was saying. I said, okay. Then I said, no, okay, I didn't understand what happened. Then I phoned my boss at the time. And he said to me, explain what happened. Then I explained to him. And he said to me, you made a mistake. You are going to pay the difference. But of course, he was joking, and then the next day he came back to me and he told me. So that was for me. That was the worst in terms of coming back to VC. At the moment, I cannot say that I have the worst investment as yet. Maybe 2 years down the line, 3 years down the line, I'll be able to come back and say suddenly, "Hey, I invested in this in this business, and it just didn't work for me."
I can talk to you about investments for a long time, but I don't want to keep you any last few words from you or anything we didn't discuss that you'd like the audience to know.
Um, Look, I'm just going to take this opportunity to, invite the viewers that are out there that are looking to raise funding to visit our website. It's zionventurepartners.co.za and go to the Get Funding section. Give us a little bit of information about your business, put your pitch deck, and our team will be in touch. You never know, maybe we'll be able to raise funding for you or be able to invest in your business.
I think that's a good way to end. The show has been live on YouTube and should be available on podcast by tomorrow. If you're watching on YouTube or listening on the podcast and you feel it's added value, don't forget to like, subscribe, and click on that notification bell to get automatically notified when the next episode comes out. Tafara, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you very much, always.
Thanks everyone for joining us for another episode of Two Ways to Skin a Cat. Goodbye.